How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at my John Carpenter complete movie collection. This is part 2. Last time we did Dark Star all the way up through Christine. So today we're going to be starting at Starman and working our way through. So let's just jump right into it. This first one here, as I just said, is Starman, a tender-moving science fiction love story. Basically, you get this alien that comes to Earth, and he takes on the form of this lady's dead husband, and they eventually fall in love. You got Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen in this one. A love story, so it's a little bit different for Carpenter, but it is still got a sci-fi in it. So Kurt Russell, Jeff Bridges, a pretty cool movie. A little different than what he normally does, though. But moving on to one of my favorite Carpenter movies, Big Trouble in Little China. I've actually already reviewed the comic for this on this channel because they made a comic book sequel. But anyway, John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China, the best way to describe it is it's John Carpenter's love letter to Asian cinema, while also parodying Hollywood's inability to properly adapt it. So you get this guy, Jack Burden, and he comes to Chinatown, and in Chinatown he meets his friend Wang, and his friend's fiance gets kidnapped by martial artist with magical powers, and they eventually find that because of his fiance's rare green eyes, that this sorcerer needs her in a ritual to make himself live forever. And it's a really cool, fun, wacky, over-the-top movie. Tons of great magic effects and creature effects, if you like creature effects there in this movie as well. Some really cool creatures. But also, yeah, a ton of humor. This is a very funny, wacky, over-the-top movie, and I love it. But like I said, you know, parody of Hollywood's inability to adapt the genre. Jack Burden, the truck driver, is secretly the sidekick in this movie. He's kind of a parody of Hollywood's over-the-top action hero movie stars, and he doesn't realize that his friend Wang is the actual main character, and of course he thinks he is, but he's really just following along, and he's a fun, lovable goofball. Kurt Russell as well. Last time we saw the made-for-TV movie Elvis, which was the first collaboration with Kurt Russell, and then we moved on to Escape from New York with Kurt Russell again, and here is yet another Kurt Russell movie with John Carpenter. So that's always fun. Up next, Prince of Darkness. This is actually the second in John Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy. The first is The Thing, then Prince of Darkness, and then In the Mouth of Madness. And basically, it's conceptual trilogy, so the stories don't follow each other, but you know, you get distrust and then evil and then the apocalypse, you know. But basically this movie is about a priest played by Donald Pleasance, and when he takes over this new church, he's found that they're keeping these vials of a mysterious green liquid type deal in their basement, and they say that they're containing pure evil. And when he invites some scientists to study this green goo, he finds that that is most definitely the case, as once they start messing with it, things start to go pretty crazy. But yeah, definitely a really fun, kind of overlooked Carpenter movie. Definitely recommend checking out. It gets really fun. Up next, They Live. It's about this construction worker who finds a mysterious pair of sunglasses, and these sunglasses, when he puts them on, lets him see the world as it really is. You see these aliens, who look kind of like this. These aliens are pretending to be real people, so he put them on, and some people he sees are really aliens. But he also sees that marketing and advertising is actually mind control. You see things like buy written. Like, he'll look at an advertisement and it's this big complicated advertisement, but then when he puts the glasses on, it just says buy or obey. You know, obey is the famous one. You get the guy on the news who's secretly an alien. But yeah, he has to uncover this big alien plot, and of course, you get a fun fight scene where he's trying to convince his friend to join him, and he has to fight the guy for like 10 minutes until he agrees to come. And there are some editions of this DVD that have a sticker on it, which would normally be some advertising sticker, but it just goes, bye. And I thought that was fun. But yeah, definitely a really fun using B-movies to parody a serious issue and talk about it in a fun way. So yeah, fun John Carpenter movie, one of his classics. Up next, a comedy, Chevy Chase and Daryl Hannah in Memoirs of an Invisible Man. You get Chevy Chase turning invisible, and yeah, it's John Carpenter doing a classic monster. He'll do vampires later, but this is the first time Carpenter covered a classic one. It's also a little abnormal because he's doing a comedy in this one. But yeah, this movie is kind of hard to find, you know, Warner Archive collection. Eventually, I think Scream Factory put out a release of it. And also odd that almost all John Carpenter movies say John Carpenter's and then the title. I don't know why that's not on this release, but yeah, Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Fun comedy. Up next, Body Bags, and I actually do have a full review for this on this channel. You see Carpenter right there. Why Carpenter's actual face is on this is because he actually plays the host. This is a series of shorts. The first two are directed by Carpenter, and then Tobe Hooper, who did Poltergeist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, covers for the last one. And basically, this was going to be a show that was going to compete with Tales from the Crypt, but it didn't get picked up, so basically they turned the three that they made into a movie instead. But yeah, John Carpenter plays a morgue worker who's looking at all these different body bags and seeing the story related to each. It's fun, and if you want more on that, I do have a full review on the channel already. After that, the third in the Apocalypse trilogy, In the Mouth of Madness. You get this guy who works as an insurance guy, and one of the people they cover, a publishing house, says that their star writer has gone missing, and it's his job to track down this writer, and a girl from the publishing company comes, and they trace him down to this little town in the middle of nowhere, which is exactly like the town in one of his books, and there's things in this town that are exactly like the books as well. And of course the writer is a little bit of a nod to Stephen King, but of course taken in an extreme direction. But in the town there are these really cool Silent Hill / Clive Barker things. Really, really fun, and one of his most underrated ones. Big and apocalyptic in scale with some really cool creatures and special effects. But if you haven't seen this one, it's one that I'd recommend checking it out. One of his more underrated movies. Very, very good. Up next, another remake. In the last video, we had John Carpenter remaking The Thing from Another World. Here he remakes Village of the Damned, and based on the book The Midwich Cuckoos. Here's the original, The Village of the Damned, and the sequel, Children of the Damned. I might do a review, like a week, where I do all the Village of the Damned movies, but there's the original, there's the sequel. A group of kids is mysteriously born all on the same day with glowing eyes and mind control powers, and what do you do against an army of very powerful kids? They're powerful, but they're also kids, so you don't really want to just, you know, kill them, right? But that's the second remake Carpenter did. A fun story. Up next, another Kurt Russell, Escape from LA. This is obviously a sequel to Escape from New York. This time Snake has to go into LA. It's a similar concept. It's, a lot of people say, an unnecessary sequel. It's a lot goofier than Escape from New York. Everyone brings up the surfing scene, which they actually put on the front cover despite people criticizing it. You get a brief bit with Bruce Campbell there, which was, I think, the first time those two met. Carpenter and Campbell, you know. Or maybe, I don't know. But anyway, a fun enough movie, not really necessary. It's watchable, but yeah, it's not as good as Escape. Now, moving on. John Carpenter's Vampires. A guy from the church hunting down vampires. This big, well-organized team, but of course is a conspiracy. I think they're hunting down the first vampire or something in this movie. It's been a while since I've seen this, and to be honest, I think this is probably Carpenter's worst movie. It's not bad, but it's not great either. But yeah, a team hunting down vampires, and it's okay. It did, even though it wasn't his best, later on it would get 2 sequels. John Carpenter presents meaning he's just like a producer. Vampires Los Muertos. Sorry if my dog made a noise and if you could hear that in the recording. Vampires Los Muertos and Vampires The Turning. So even though it wasn't his best film, it still became a trilogy. Moving on, you get Ice Cube, Natasha Hendricks, and Ghost of Mars. A group of people go to Mars, find a big abandoned space colony, and there's, of course, creatures that are taking over the place. It was cool to see the big abandoned Mars colony and the people running around trying to survive it. Other than that, it wasn't really great, but it was still fine, and, you know, cool to see an abandoned space colony and cool monsters. It didn't play out that great, but it was good enough. And then moving on to John Carpenter's last movie, The Ward, with Amber Heard, a girl in a psychiatric clinic, or should I say ward, and there's ghosts there. Amber Heard, Danielle Panabaker, I think that's the girl from Heroes, right? I remember it being pretty good, but yeah, it's been years and years since I've seen this one. Probably do it a rewatch. But yeah, a horror movie, John Carpenter's last directed movie. He helped out with the Halloween reboot, or sequel, so maybe Blumhouse will talk him into directing again. I'm sure he's living comfortably off the royalties to all his successful movies, but I would like to see him back directing. He's really good. Before we go, he did 2 episodes of Masters of Horror. John Carpenter, cigarette burns. Cigarette burns are those things to let the projectionist know when to change a reel. It's about Norman Reedus looking for a lost film. It's very, very good, so definitely check it out. I have the complete season here, but I think you can buy the episode either by itself or in a double pack with something else. But John Carpenter's Cigarette Burns, Norman Reedus looking for a lost, supposedly cursed horror movie. Fun concept. It's really, really good. Not as good. John Carpenter pro-life movie about a baby being born, but it's a devil baby. Not as good, but hey, it's Carpenter, right? And then last thing I want to show, it doesn't really have much to do with anything. Found a John Carpenter documentary that's been in my collection with the rest of these. Includes interviews with John Carpenter, Jamie Lee Curtis, Peter Fonda, Kurt Russell. Fun documentary if you want to learn more about him. It's only 60 minutes, but the title of this is literally just John Carpenter. So if I were to review it, would be Zach Reviews John Carpenter, and you'd think I'd be reviewing the guy himself, but the documentary. But anyway, for these later movies, be curious to know what's your favorite out of the second half of his career. Some pretty cool stuff in here, but yeah, some stuff that's not as good. But yeah, definitely be interested in hearing you guys' opinions. And if there's a movie out of these that you want a review for, like, to tell me what's your favorite, and maybe I'll get around to doing that. But anyway, second half of the John Carpenter collection. This is a video I've been wanting to make for a while, and I'm so glad that I was able to make it. A big director collection, and really some great and classic movies, and that John Carpenter is an amazing director. And even some of the ones that, you know, you may not have heard of are really amazing movies, and at his worst, he's still okay, you know. But anyway, that being said, thank you for watching. To everyone who's watched this far, I'll put a playlist on the bottom, probably be the John Carpenter playlist. Not terribly much in it at this point, but I will fill it up in the future. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping out the channel. And I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Have a good day. More movies to come.